Greetings, brethren. Again, it's a wonderful thing and privilege for me to be able to come up here and talk and give messages right from the Scriptures. The only source of truth we have in this day and age, wherever was throughout mankind's history. Well, anyway, brethren, in this event, I want to go back to the time of our Messiah during his ministry. It was towards his ministry, and he was facing off with a very powerful governor. His name was Pontius Pilate. And, of course, our Messiah was already pretty badly beaten up, and he was brought before Pilate by the Sanhedrin, Jewish leaders of that time, the religious leaders now, okay? Not the normal Jewish people there, the citizens, but the Jewish guards and the military section of their Sanhedrin. And he was standing before the Roman governor. Now, Pontius Pilate, if you don't know much about him, he was responsible directly to Caesar Augustus, because Caesar appointed him over that part of Judea and Galilee, okay? So I want you to turn to John 18. I want you to listen to this conversation that he has, or was having, with Pontius Pilate. John 18, starting verse 33. Pilate then went back inside the palace. He summoned our Messiah, Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the King of the Jews?" "Is that your own idea," Jesus said, "or did others talk to you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "It was your people and your chief priest who handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" So Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king then," said Pilate. And Jesus said, "You are right in saying I am a king. In fact, for this reason I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." "What is truth?" Pilate asked. And with this he went out again to the Jews and said, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." Well, brethren, this conversation took place using this year we're living in, 2019 years ago. Now, I want to fast forward to 1944, okay? There was another individual who was in power at the time. He was a dictator, a ruler over the German people, the German citizenry. His name, of course, everybody knows, was Adolf Hitler. And he made a statement in August 1944, and he said this: "There is no such thing as truth, either in the moral or scientific sense." That's what he said. Now, from there, let's fast forward to 2014. We had a leader in this country, a president. His name was Barack Obama. And he said that there is no such thing as absolute truth. He made that statement. Well, brethren, my title today is The War on Truth. And everybody sitting here and those who are listening to the tape later knows that truth is being kicked to the curb in this nation, the United States. I'm not even going to go into what's going on in Europe and the Middle East, but here in this country. It seems that more and more, brethren, the leaders of our country today in government, education, they believe that truth doesn't exist anymore. They teach this, believe it or not, on most, but not all, college campuses. They sidetrack and they just don't even mention what truth is from the Scriptures or living right or a lot of different things. They just gloss over it or don't even mention it, and they have their own ideas fostered upon the children today who are going, and the young people, to these campuses. Do you ever ask yourself, brethren, with truth, would it ever survive our so-called rational scientific age? Because believe me, we're very deep into science, let's face it. I mean, the digital world, the computer world, and everything connected to it is taking off like a shot, and they just keep increasing more knowledge about different things. But our rational scientific age, is truth ever going to survive? In this present day and age, brethren, I have to say that truth is not, in this age we live, truth is not here hardly anymore. It's in an age, as I will call it, of astonishing irrationality in our society. And it's actually appalling to see the assault on truth here in the United States. It never used to be this way, but over the last 3 or 4 decades, it has really degenerated in people's minds and what they do, the legislators and the government people, educators, and how truth is being eroded right and left. Now, there's 3 controversies I want to just bring up briefly here to show you where truth has eroded or has been kicked to the curb, so to speak. One of the big controversies today, and it's in a way it's controversial with a lot of people, and it's almost comical in a way, but it's transgenderism. Everybody here knows what that is, okay? That's where a guy gets transferred over to a woman, a female. It goes from male to female, okay? It takes all these your hormonal shots, I guess, and medicines and pills and whatever they do. Anyway, males transgenderism to females, and then they join the female sports sections around the country. They get involved in golf, they get involved in swimming, in softball, in baseball, and different things. So what has happened, the real women are getting up in arms about this because they're saying that these transgender guys are coming into their mixture and they're winning. See, they're winning over the other girls' teams. So, you see, the guys are stronger, see? They are. I mean, statistically or physically, it can be proven that many times. I want to read something to you out of Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Let's just take a look at this. Verse 27. This is how our Creator began, male and female. He created them. I'll start in verse 26. Then our Father in heaven said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. See? Everybody, that's basic to our truth and knowledge in the Scriptures. Our Father in heaven created male and female. He didn't transgender anybody or show them a way to do it. It's been that way for ages, male and female. But in this day and age, over the last, 20, 30 years, things have gotten to the point where somewhere in the mind of certain men, when they're very young, I think they just want to transfer over to being a woman. That's one controversy. That's a big lie as to where they get this idea that they want to go over to being a female. Somehow these men who do this are influenced by someone or some group or some evil spirit, some spiritual decadence in their lives have brought them to this. Secondly, the big controversy, which everybody in here is aware of, you hear about it in the news and everything, is this global warming. See? I looked into this, and there was a survey in 2012, and over 1,000 professional engineers, geoscientists, okay, they said that these changes in the climate are natural phenomenon, okay? They're natural, they're normal in the Earth's cycles. And they are. Global warming, look at the ice ages. Let's go back in time. The ice ages we've had on this Earth, the Earth's atmosphere had to warm up to melt these huge glaciers. I mean, we human beings couldn't live with glaciers that I know went up to 5,000 feet in altitude. It's estimated some of them even went to 10,000 feet. I was reading an article about the last ice age. An ice river came down as far as Allentown, okay, and the scientists and the geologists estimate it was about 5,000 feet high. And then it started to melt, go back, and it ground the rocks into soil. Now, without the ice ages and the global warming that had to take place then to melt these huge glaciers, we wouldn't have soil to grow our food, because glaciers, being that high and so heavy, grind the rock into soil. I've seen it demonstrated actually in a film one time, where this couple, they were geologists, went in underneath this glacier, and they showed film-wise about them grinding the rocks into very fine, almost like a dust. And that's how they came about. So they proved to the viewers that, yes, glaciers did come at one time, and they ground rocks into soil, dirt, and everything. So I took courses in college on it, soils and fertility, and then I had a professor show us what glacial till looks like. He says, you dig down through the ground, you can see the layers, you can see the top grass, the topsoil, and then you get down further, and then there's rock underneath. You get down a couple of feet, you hit shale and all that. But all those rocks, at one point in time, eons ago, had to be ground down into soil, or else we wouldn't have anything to grow our food, plant our trees, and have fruits, vegetables, and grains. Which is a beautiful thing, and our Father in heaven planned it this way over periods of time. Now, the third thing, this global warming thing, is a cyclic thing. Normal cyclic thing. But we're being led to believe that it's an emergency, and there's even politicians running for president. They're going to say a lot of people are going to die in the future. There was one lady politician says, if we don't do something now, she says, we got about 10 years. Well, you know, you wonder about these statistics and things that they shout out to the public. Anyway, it's a normal cyclic thing. The third thing, last but not least, this big lie and untruth has caused the death of millions of babies in the womb, and it's called abortion. You've all heard of and have seen demonstrations all over the country to promote abortion. And a lot of young women will say, well, it's my body. See? The big lie is, brethren, there's another body involved here. A little baby boy or girl that has a beating heart, blood flowing through his or her veins, okay? They are a living human being created by our Father in heaven. It's miraculous. But they think, well, it's just a fetus. See, they've been sold a lie that it's just a fetus. It doesn't mean anything. But, boy, are they ever going to be surprised one day when judgment rolls around against them. And the politicians, lawmakers, and those people dressed in black robes that judge and make judgments that it's okay to kill them out of the womb. Anyway, brethren, that's three areas I wanted to show you where lies, half-truths, and just blatant deception moves into the minds of people by way of the people in power. It doesn't seem as if common sense and truth is ruled by reason in this age, or any kind of rationality. What has happened, brethren, and Paul the Apostle has gone through this problem in his journeys, his ministerial journeys, when he was alive, and all the apostles went through it in their journeys, is this whole idea of people being ruled over by someone else's will. They will their ideas on people. And that is a big problem. These people that have illogical, irrational, unscientific, untruthful beliefs, they try to enforce it through their will over onto other people, either through legislation or just through blatant force in some cases. I want you to turn to Colossians 2, if you will. Book of Colossians, chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 18 to 23. Colossians 2. This shows you what Paul the Apostle says about it and the problems that he had with the various churches he entered in Asia Minor and also throughout Europe and even in the British Isles. Here it is here, Colossians 2. I'm going to read to you, starting in verse 18. He tells us here, do not let anyone who delights in false humility and the worship of angels disqualify you for the prize, for such a person goes into great detail about what he has seen. This was an example he was setting up here. And his unspiritual mind puffs him up with idle notions. He has lost connection with the head, that is Jesus himself, from whom the whole body, supported and held together by its ligaments and sinews, grows as God causes it to grow. Since you died with Christ to the basic principles of this world, why, as though you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These are all destined to perish with use, but because they are based on human commands and teachings, such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom, and with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. It's what people push, those in influence and power, push over their will on other people. Paul the Apostle, brethren, had problems in this area all throughout his ministry. And he confronted a lot of people on his journeys, a lot of people that had these false ideas and wanted to will their falsehoods over onto other people. Let's look at 2 Thessalonians 2. Book of Thessalonians. Here's another example, so to speak. Verses 9 to 10, 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2. The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with the work of Satan, displayed in all kinds of counterfeit miracles, signs and wonders, and in every sort of evil that deceives those who are perishing. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. They didn't want to love the truth. I heard a minister some years ago in the church. He said, he says, people sure like to live in a lie. They like to be deceived and live in a lie. They're not interested in truth. Did you ever try to speak truth to power? Oh, boy, can you get yourself in trouble on that. Depending on the person in power, if they're brutal enough, they'll do something to you maybe. Let's go to 2 Peter 2, 2 Peter. Verse 2. Here's another problem Peter had in his journeys. 2 Peter 2 and verse 2. I'm going to start with verse 1. But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who bought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Many will follow their shameful ways and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. Do you ever have somebody, when you tell them the truth, all of a sudden, boy, they really hammer down on you and beat you up, verbally, that is, and they tell you, no, that's not the way it is. Yet you're going by the scriptures and you know it's the truth. So they hold it in disrepute. You have those kind of people. Let's go to Romans 1. Book of Romans. Romans 1. Let's go over there. Here's something that Paul had a problem with. Verse 25. Paul was talking to the church in Rome, and he says, therefore God gave them over to the sinful desires of their hearts, to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. There it is there. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie. That's still occurring today, brethren. It's still going on. Turn to John chapter 8, the book of John. I want to read to you verse 42 to 47, John 8. You want to know who's behind all this, and this certainly tells it all right here. Jesus said to them, and them meaning the Pharisees, they were the leaders of the Sanhedrin, and these men were right there. He was talking to them directly. He tells us here, our Father, Jesus himself says, if God were your Father, you would love me, for I came from God and now am here. I have not come on my own, but he sent me. Why is my language not clear to you? Because you are unable to hear what I say. You belong to your father, the devil. You want to carry out your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Yet because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Can any of you prove me guilty of sin? If I am telling the truth, why don't you believe me? He who belongs to God hears what Yahweh, our Creator God, says. The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. Let's go to Ephesians 4:15. Let's find out, brethren, how we should be reacting to all the lies and deceptions in our society. Ephesians 4:15. Let's go there. I'll actually go to verse 14. I'll start right there. Then we will no longer be infants. He's talking to his people in this church in Ephesus. He says, we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of men and their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up unto him who is the head, that is Christ. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love, as each part does its work. He's showing us, brethren, how we should react to all of what's going on. Let's go to John chapter 8. John chapter 8. (31 to 32). I will read this. To the Jews who had believed him, our Savior said, if you hold to my teachings, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. There you have it, brethren. The truth will set you free. And I have said to myself on a number of occasions, and I may have even mentioned it to some of you here, that the Bible is the only source of truth we have. Reading it and understanding it and doing our very best to live by it. The truth will set you free. So the war on truth, we have the scriptures as a backup. Now we may be in the trenches, spiritually speaking. I mean, people are going to take pot shots at us, so to speak, if I could use that term. We're in the trenches, spiritually speaking. people are going to fire things at us. But having the truth from the Scriptures is really our best backup we have. So remember, brethren, the truth will set you free.